Yo, yo, yo. What's good with it, y'all? It's your boy Lamborghini Preem. Back once again talking this boxing shit. And as always, make sure you stop by my official site, hustlegameboss.com, and check out my all-new album, It's My Turn, The Throne Ascension LP. You know what I mean? If you in the G shit, you're going to appreciate me. And also, while you on my site, be sure to check out my merchandise on there. I got a lot of nice shit, you know, hoodies, t-shirts, all that shit. It's a bunch of fly shit on there, so if you fuck with me heavy and you want to support me, that's how you do it, you know what I mean? But thank you in advance too, because you know I do appreciate everybody that fuck with me, you know what I mean? But with that being said, let's move on to the video. We got my man Gervonta Tank Davis, one of my personal favorite fighters right now in the game, versus this is the aftermath rather of the fight between Tank Davis, my man, and Yuriorkis Gamboa, also one of my favorite fighters. I love Gamboa. I always thought Gamboa had a style that reminded me of, if you combine Floyd and Pacquiao, if you combine the best attributes of both, you had Gamboa. So I really, really like Gamboa. And plus, I think, you know, I always have a high appreciation for guys with a really high skill level. And most of the Cuban fighters usually always got really high skill levels. But Gamboa in particular, him, Lara, and I think his name, what's the other guy's name? The light heavyweight guy, the one that fought Andre Ward. Sullivan Barrera. All those guys, even Luis Ortiz. Look at those guys. The skills these guys have, you know what I'm saying, is really, 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 really nice to watch, you know what I mean? So I got a lot of respect for those guys. And they all became champions, I think, with the exception of Barrera. But I think in Barrera's case, it was really just timing, man, because he ran into Andre Ward at the wrong time, you know what I mean? If Barrera would have been on the scene maybe a year before, he'd have been all right. He probably would have had a belt. And he still may get a belt. His career's not over, but, you know, it's a hard hustle out at light heavy right now. Got a lot of heavy hitters up there. You know, that Bivol, he ain't no joke. And neither is the guys coming up for 168, but that's neither here nor there. What I'm saying is I got a lot of respect for Gamboa's pedigree. So I was not surprised at all that he was able to basically, you know, go the distance with Tank. Now, he didn't fully go the distance. He got knocked out in the 12th. But to me, given the injury that he sustained in the middle of the fight, man, I give Gamboa a lot of credit. Man, just for toughing it out, man, with a ruptured Achilles. Now, it seemed to be some confusion. It seems to be really foggy as to whether his shit was torn, a full tear, or whatever, you know, a partial tear, whatever. Even if it was a slight tear, you got a fucking torn Achilles in there, and you still fight 11 more rounds or 10 more rounds. I think he injured it in the second, so he still fought another 10 rounds after that against Tank. I got to give this man his credit, man. I got to give him his credit, because Tank is not no joke. People, I know he has that moniker where he's the like a mini Mike Tyson, but well, and I shouldn't say it like this, but the fact is, Mike Tyson is known as being a power puncher to knock you out the box, and that's the same way Tank is. But both these guys had deceptive skills. You know what I'm saying? Tank has a beautiful jab, man. He runs all his power shots off that shit, and the way that he does it, his head movement is also really good too, man. It's really fun to watch, to see that guy, you know what I'm saying, just be so good defensively, and it looks so effortless. You know what I mean? I like Tank's style a lot in there. But going against a guy like Gamboa, I wasn't surprised that Gamboa was able to basically go the distance with him. And I also wasn't surprised that Gamboa, even with the injury, was able to hold off that knockout like as long as possible. You know, that was some good shit. You know, I respect Gamboa. But I do want to mention a couple of things about Gamboa's performance. The first thing is, I saw a tweet earlier today where he was exclaiming, you know, how he's a warrior and everything. And I agree with that. He is a warrior. He went, because it takes serious heart to go through 10 rounds with a ruptured Achilles. You know what I'm saying? Fighting an animal like Tank. You know what I mean? Tank ain't no motherfucking joke. That boy is a beast. And you can't move around like you like to, that's gonna stifle your game, especially a guy like Gamboa, who, you know, he when he gets into firefights, you know what I'm saying, he can sometimes get the short end of the stick there, you know. So it's like, shit, man, like, I give him his respect, but all that extra shit he was doing on Twitter, man, he should really cut that out, because we definitely got the the footage from the end of round 2 when the conversation in the corner was going on. But that's neither here nor there, you know what I mean? If you know, you know. Like my man Pusha say, if you know what I'm talking about there. But yeah, man, I still give Gamboa a lot of credit, and like I said, I believe Gamboa deserves, after this fight, not only a big payday fight that's kind of a cupcake, you know what I mean, just a throw him a lob type fight, you know, something just to, you know, to keep him going, keep him hot and fresh, and also just keep, you know, the knife sharp on him, and get him a nice payday. I think it should be a nice payday, maybe a name, that maybe a former name, or, you know, I don't know, just a big fight where he gets some money out of it and it's not too difficult. And then after that, I think he should get one more title shot and then call it a day, win, lose, or draw. You know what I'm saying? Well, we all know if he does win another title, he's not going to call it a day. And who could blame you? You know, if you're still out here winning titles, man, that means you still got it in you to compete on the highest level. So, you know, and you don't want to tell these guys when to, you know, call it a day. But you're a guy like Gamboa, he's up in age, you know. It's one of those things where if he can get himself a title and another big money fight, preferably all in one, you know, that would be really good for him, and it would be really nice to see, because I personally feel like he deserves it. I think the guy's a warrior. I think, especially given the odds that he was up against, not only defecting from Cuba and, you know, that whole come up that you got to go through doing that shit, but also his time in Top Rank, the whole 50 Cent fiasco, and how they kind of blackballed my man for a minute. And then when he had to go into the Crawford fight, and I felt like he went into the Crawford fight with the deck stacked against him. And I just, when shit like that happens, you know, I just want to see these guys get their just due. You know, I feel like he's earned it. He's earned another big money fight, and he earned another title shot for somebody, you know. So, you know, get him one of them vacant joints or something like that. See what we could do there. But that's my assessment as far as Gamboa go. Now, as far as Tank go, shit, we about to go party on this motherfucker. I'm in the whip rolling up right now. But now I got as far as Tank goes from the fight, I want to say a few things regarding him. The first thing is, I was impressed by his performance. I want to say, I know a lot of people weren't impressed by his performance, and I'll tell you why I was impressed by his performance. Because the man was having weight problems, and anytime you having weight problems, you know it's going to affect you negatively in the fight, especially stamina wise. And we saw that towards the middle of the fight, where Tank had to take a couple rounds off, but he recovered from that nicely, and he still was able to finish the fight and close the show. I personally believe, I don't have no inside information and nothing like that, but I personally believe that Tank's weight is really a problem. I don't know if it's due to lack of discipline, or maybe he just, you know, filling out, because, once niggas get older and shit, your body do fill out. You do get heavier, you know what I'm saying? You do, you know, you become more solid, you know what I mean? Like, once you get that man strength, as they say, you know, that you kind of settle into a heavier weight, you know, regardless of how light you may have been beforehand. And it becomes almost dangerous to stay at that previous weight, you know, or to stay smaller per se, you know what I'm saying? It just feels more comfortable all the way around to be more full, I like to call it. So when I look at Tank, man, I don't see him as a big fighter. I don't think we need to see Tank at welterweight and no shit like that. But this 130, I think it's over with for Tank. 135, I feel like that's a good weight class for him, but he's going to have to be more disciplined and stay very close to 135 year round. You know, it might behoove the PBC to put Tank in a few more fights per year, where they're not necessarily like huge, massive matchups, but to get him fighting maybe 4 times a year, maybe 2 years in a row. And he'll break the bank. He'll make hella money. That's number one. And number two, he'll raise his profile as a contender, not as a contender, but as a champion, you know, because people are looking at him kind of iffy right now. I don't know why. I personally see the skills. I see the potential in the guy, and I know that once he eventually gets his step up in competition, he's gonna shine. But you know, it's some questions there in some people's mind, and justifiably so. But at the same time, I think he's gonna pleasantly surprise us when he steps up in competition, assuming he maintains his discipline. But because we can't have this man losing titles on the scale no more, you know, on that Adrian Broner shit. Same thing happened with AB, except AB, he graduated way too fast. He went to 147. After that Paulie fight, he should have came back down to 135 and continued doing what he was doing, or 140. Even though Danny Garcia was the man at that point, he could have started campaigning because Danny Garcia was ready to move up to 147 himself, you know. But that's neither here nor there. When it comes to this Tank shit, I think he's going to be a hell of a fighter. He's going to be almost legendary at 135. I believe if he fight Lomachenko, he beats Lomachenko. I know everybody else is picking Lomachenko because of his skill set, and he's going to look good against Tank for a little while, but Tank is going to eventually land, and Lomachenko is not chinny. I don't want to say that, but he's susceptible to big shots. You know what I'm saying? So you got a guy like Tank, and Tank is a natural 135. Lomachenko fighting kind of out of his weight class there. Well, I won't say out of his weight class. I'll just say coming from 126 to 135, it's not natural for him. You know what I'm saying? So that will be a factor. But to me, that's just only going to play into Tank's hands, and is going to be a big part of the reason why Tank dominates that fight. You know what I'm saying? I expect Lomachenko to have maybe 2, maybe 3 good rounds. You know what I'm saying? Maybe 3. But outside of that, I expect him to get knocked out in that fight. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on this shit. That's the post-fight analysis. The next thing I want to see for Tank coming up, I want to see him defend his title against somebody, man, I don't know. Timing is everything, and it's not really no big fights on the horizon. Maybe with Gary Russell. I want to see that fight eventually. I want to also see the Lomachenko fight. I think he should fight Gary Russell first, though. So, because honestly, Gary Russell is going to be a tougher task for him to beat than Lomachenko will be. And I know that sounds crazy, being that Lomachenko beat Gary Russell, and he looked good doing it. But, you know, it is what it is. That's my thoughts on the shit. My man Tank looked good in my opinion. You got to stay disciplined, stay keeping that weight down. You know what I'm saying? He do that, the sky's the limit. He'll be unstoppable. I'm on to the next one. I'm going to see y'all later. 100.